Hello, hi, I'm Catherine, the creator of SHEA and the JETSUNS Community Preservation of the Promised Land. Okay, so I'm here to awaken everyone that the Promised Land is yours. 640 acres is yours based on your records, on your great grandparents' records. And so I'm here to show you how we have been completely removed from our homes. Our great grandparents was completely removed from our homes, and we must return back to the way we were, you know, prior to 1619. And that's where we're headed. We're headed to where we're going back to 1619, but we have to be aware of that. And prior to 1619, we were living in the promised land. So that's what we were doing. We were living in the promised land. 640 acres is already documented that it's ours. I put it in a patent already in July of this year. So I put it in a patent, which I'm now uh, not really pursuing a. I'm already, talking to an attorney in which I need you guys to also donate. But by donating, you can just email him and just say, "Can you support Catherine? You already have her documents. We appreciate it. She read you. She read us the letter that you sent her, that you were going to see into it to see if you could take my case. So just see if you can take Catherine's case, and we appreciate it. Something like that." Okay, so let's show you how the part two of the U.S. will have no choice but to have to contain their own self. They would have to contain themselves, and that's what's happening. The U.S. and their race is must contain themselves because you know we've been removed from our homes, and now they're just out here just wild, you know, taking over our land. And here, this is proof right here. I'm gonna leave a link on this video.
This democracy our forefathers fought and died for. The Chinese coming to our shores are criminals and gangsters, bringing with them a savagery not seen since the Indian Wars. Here,
What Indian wars, man? America's been at war 93% of the time. And 222 out of 239 years. Indian wars, they're talking about starting in 1776. We're talking back to the Sheik Maguche. A savagery not seen since the Indian Wars. For the first 20 years, it's all on the Sheik Magua. The ones that signed no deals and made no treaties. Savages, they call them. All this barbarity, all the berber, Hebrew word for swan. We talking swan knights, Tecumseh. Yeah, that was the last stand of the Ibaru. Yeah, we talk.
These are all tribe names that we have, and these are all of the wars that took place that was against us and our great grandparents, and we fought against them taking our lands. And who were they? They were Mexicans, $5 Indians, white people, and those people turned against us and recruited Bass Reeves, which removed us from our homes. And so he's showing you all of the when we 1812. So 1812 it started. The book, it started when they arrived. So when the moment that the white people arrived, hell was upon the indigenous people here, and there is a time for them to do this and to rule, but then there's a time for them to stop. They can't continue, so they have to be contained because they were never supposed to come here in the first place. And for them to wreak havoc for this long, for 400 years. So you came 1765, 400 years, and you created all these wars with the $5 Indians that never even came to our help to even help us. And you wonder why? Because they went in with the white people. Because the white people knew exactly who was indigenous, and it was us. That's why they later wrote, after they removed us, they later wrote the Indian treaties that we couldn't enter in the land that they just stole. They said no Negro. Okay, how come you didn't say African American? And how come if we were from Africa, how come you didn't put the tribe that we were from in Africa? Because you said freed Negro. cannot come into Chickasaw, cannot come into Powhatan, Iroquois, because you here's all of the listing of the tribes that we were removed from. All of our land, I'm sorry, land and territory we were removed from.
About the more war. When they talk Indian war, they still talking the more. Indian war, Indian
Now, okay,
war, Indian war.
see, Indian wars.
So they're still talking the same Chickamauga, Cherokee.
See, Chinese forces clashes with Chinese troops invaded African coast.
Skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Nope.
See, kinfolk, they ain't kinfolk. Indian war. And since you know that you are the copper-colored races found here by the European.
See, Black Hawks, Utah Black Hawks. Black Hawk War means black people. We're in Utah. Texas Indian Wars. That's my grandfather. He was in Texas. He lived in Texas, born in Texas, and we were pushed up going into Oklahoma, and then that's where my father was born, in Stillwater, Oklahoma, right across from Tulsa, Oklahoma, in which we used to go back and forth to Tulsa until they burned us down there. Then we moved from there. We moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and that's how we ended in Michigan, because we were removed from here, right here, Texas to Oklahoma. So everywhere we went, we were pushed and we were removed everywhere we went. I have documents from, and it was the Oklahoma Urban City Renewal that removed our great grandparents, all the way from Black Hawk, Texas Indian Wars, from Utah Black Hawks.
When we keep talking Texas Indian Wars way in the 1800s, my nigga, this is still you fighting. This is still you driving up. You weren't no homeboy slave brought from Africa. You right here already fighting for the land that you own by birthright. This country just went from one indigenous spot to another, right? Mexico, Peru, all throughout the Philippines, all these are Nagas, man. All these are Naga wars up into the 1900s. Finally, they go to World War II. And all this is still around the Naga. Oh, I'm just talking Nagasaki. Oh, boy. Indian wars.
See, everywhere we was fighting in the 1800s when they came here, and now in order for them to come here, black people like the Moors would have to bring them here, and then if they wanted it to stop, they couldn't stop it because the flood came in, just like on the movie The Harder They Fall. He said, "Are you ready for the flood?" Remember and he said the flood is coming in. That was white people coming in because black people were cowards. There was a lot of coons that ran instead of fighting, and that's what took us over, because the black people who were scared of the flood retreated, and they didn't stay. That's why it was a lot of people who was hung, because they stayed. They stayed in there. You see women, and you can see a woman and her son hung on a tree. She had a dress on, and anyway, she was hung on a tree because she stayed and she fought. Because she's indigenous.
Texas Indian War.
She was the outlaw. She would be considered the outlaw, because my grandmother was the outlaw, and she went to apply for her status in 1902, and they got all of her information, asking her all kind of questions. Well, where's your grandfather? Well, where's your mother now? So she had to lie and say, I don't know. She's just trying to get her status back, her land back. Because when she say where her parents are at, then they'll go and kill our parents. Because we beat them outlaws. We be the outlaws.
Cherokee Indian Wars, Seminole, Cherokee Indian Wars, all popping back off with the Chickamauga for the first 20 years. Indian Wars, they say. Chinese. What's the Chinese got to do with the Indians? I don't know. I mean, unless you just talking, what's that Chinese? What's that China map? What's the China map that we got?
He has
What's
all
the
the maps.
India, China? What's the China got to do with the Indies?
See the maps?
I'm talking Florida. I'm talking Mexico, Peru.
Because China, California and China was one and the same, and there was nothing but black people there that looked like Brandy or that looked like TV Crump. People that looked like they're, half black, half Chinese. Well, it was a lot of them, millions, and we connected California with China. That's why it's connected with the maps. And the person that's talking is the one I was telling you about in my other videos. This is the 432 0. Let's see, 432 the drop radio.
Oh, Terra Fuego. How is Antarctica hot? I don't know. Terra Fuego. Let's go.
He has all the maps, and so you have to buy his ether packs. His ether packs come with maps that go back 1515 that tells you exactly that it was nothing but black people. There's even a city called, or no, there's a state called Negro Land. It's a state called Negro Land in America and in Africa.
Oh, we got China. Let's get it bigger. Let's get it bigger. China? China in 1548. Ptolemaeus map. Cathay is Cathay. Cathay is Marco Polo's China. Mongol. Oh, India Superior.
Now a town called Cathay, that's California. So that's where I'm at.
Tangu. Florida. Mexico. China. Say it with me. Florida, Mexico, China.
Okay, what you're looking at is old maps that the Spanish and the Chinese wrote before white people ever existed. Okay? So they were telling you who was here. These maps where they were at, it was nothing but black people. And they're telling you what territories and what land we were living at. And the reason how they got the names is because when they came there, we said it. Oh, you're in Florida. You're in Florida, or you're in Miami, which is Illinois. Because there's a tribe, my tribe of my mother's side is Illinois. So that's all like Miami. That's where the Chicago Pyramid Mounds are at, where UFOs landed there, and they landed there because that's what the pyramids were used for, landing pads, UFO landing pads. That's what the pyramids are, the Mexico pyramids and the Chicago pyramids are used for, is to have the spaceships to land there for us to walk down the steps from the pyramids, from the spaceships to the pyramids. That's what we used it for.
China's got to do with the Indians. India Superior or North America? India Superior, or are you in North America, aka the original China, the original India? Yeah, these copper colored Negroes you found in America, they're the actual Chinese. They're the Khan. The CH is not a ch, it's a k, and it's the Kenna or Kana, like Canada, like Mexican or Mexican, Mexican, America, Kana, China, the Indian.
And the China and the Chino and all that runs in Chicago and in California, all that runs in together, like for the tribes, Chino, Chicago, and all of that. And then China, here I'm talking about here in America, these were black people who named these names, Chico, all of that. This is all black names and territories that we're talking about, which we owned. So these maps, we actually own these areas. That's why they gave us the 640 acres, because we were removed from the land they removed us from. So that's why I have it where in 1830 they gave us back the 640 acres because they removed us. But then once we got it, We had to apply to get it, and then when we tell, they would go and murder us of where we were at. You know what I'm saying?
India superior. China. Oh boy. It's getting better.
And there is
Listen, pay attention.
certainly no shortage of American men looking for work. If we keep hiring foreign labor, we will decimate the working class. I probably feel the same way if I inherited my wealth.
Mm.
Your father financed your company. An insignificant loan, paid back in full. Gentlemen, please. As a fellow businessman, I'm sensitive to...
Okay, these are all criminals that are talking, and she knows this. She is the birth of it. She birthed out these men, and then she see the destruction of what they have caused, bringing her here, and she is telling what they have done to us.
Concerns, Mr. Merriweather. Once we have voted in the Exclusion Act, we can certainly legislate for ample Chinese labor as economics dictate.
Tell me, Senator, you compare the Chinese to the Indians, and I can't help but wonder how the Indians viewed the arrival of our own ancestors, turning up on their shores in droves.
We brought with us God and civility.
You mean because we murdered them by the thousands with bullets instead of tomahawks and spears?
Oh.
I imagine they would have wanted to enact an Exclusion Act all their own where we were concerned.
Oh, Penelope, dear. I hardly think it's fair to compare.
My point is, we came to a country, found a people we deemed inferior, and stole their land right out from under them. And since then, we have imported different races we deem inferior to do our dirty work for us. And when that work is done, we lament their presence in our country as an assault on our values.
Bang.
Okay, now. Okay, let's just hear that one more time.
Your father financed your company. An insignificant...
Okay, and then he goes, your father financed the company, but how did your father get it? You stole the land, and then you stole the silver and the gold that treacherous Trudy on the movie The Harder They Fall, they had to go and rob or take back this, the trains and the stagecoaches that they stole the silver and the gold from. This was real. When we talk about Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids, we're talking about two black couples, a black woman and a black man together, what's called the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids, and they would rob stagecoaches because their silver and gold was taken from their relatives. Children was stolen too, crying in these stagecoaches, and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids, which are black people, would rob these people. And then in the 70s, they turned it into some fictional movie where it was just like some white people robbing stagecoaches, but this was a story of two black people that was taking back their gold and silver that was stolen from them.
No, pay back in full. Gentlemen, please. As a fellow businessman, I'm sensitive to your concerns, Mr. Merriweather. Once we have voted in the Exclusion Act, we can certainly legislate for ample Chinese labor as economics dictate.
Tell me, Senator, you compare the Chinese to the Indians, and I can't help but wonder how the Indians viewed the arrival of our own ancestors, turning up on their shores in droves.
We brought with us God and civility.
You mean because we murdered them by the thousands with bullets instead of tomahawks and spears?
Oh.
I imagine they would have wanted to enact an Exclusion Act all their own where we were concerned.
Oh, Penelope, dear. I hardly think it's fair to compare.
My point is, we came to a country, found a people we deemed inferior, and stole their land right out from under them. And since then, we have imported different races we deem inferior to do our dirty work for us. And when that work is done, we lament their presence in our country as an assault on our values.
Bang.
See, this is what they did. They recruited black people, but they recruited the I think it's this one then. Okay. So, okay, no, this isn't the one. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to show this other video. Okay, where'd it go? I think it's this one here. It's leaked. The one that's leaked. Here's some information that was leaked from. Okay. So now, when we talk about the promised land, we're talking about us going to the promised land to where um, it'll be where we'll be able to ride in our Jetsons. Now, I had already patented the vehicles to where it'll be able to fly, and it'll be able to fly. Okay, so you're gonna see the landscape of in the areas of that I'm talking about of where we'll be able to have our Jetsons right where you're at because you will be able to get your free Jetsons. But and so here is the landscape of the areas of what I was talking about.
This is Trevor Coppola for Anthony J. Hilder.
Okay.
I'm with Deborah Tavares, and we're going to discuss a few topics here.
Thank you so much for the interview. I appreciate the opportunity. One of the things that we want to talk about is what we were
Okay,
discussing
now,
a little bit ago.
now as we go, you see the landscape. I just wanted you to see the landscape while she's talking, but
that was found on the NASA website.
okay,
And
see the landscape here. Let me just pause this for a minute, because I want you to look at the landscape. See how okay, now imagine that your Jetsons, you'll be able to travel above all of this and travel from here to across over there because it's a jet, right? So when we look at this landscape going on, because it'll just keep going, because this is where it's showing different areas, and I'm talking about across America, across South America. We'll be seeing beautiful landscape areas to where your Jetsons, the motorhome coach, right? What it does is that okay, so you'll get that immediately because it's patent. That's what the lawyer. That's why you have to donate because it's to obtain this lawyer. Now, it doesn't really have to be Brian Stevens, but it's good to write to him because he's the only one that is already interested in the case anyway. Because he sent me a letter and he said that it looks like your rights have been violated. So we're gonna go ahead and see if we can take your case. But if he doesn't, just go ahead or if he doesn't seem how think he can't take the case. I already sent him the information, so you just write him and say, take Catherine's case, boom. Okay, now, what he does is that he just announces the rules of the promised land, and that is we will receive our free Jetsons to travel anywhere the promised land is at, and that is 7 to 13 different promised land in each state, okay, in beautiful areas like this that so you won't be able. Well, yeah, you can park your Jetsons where you're at, but it would be parked also in the promised land to where you won't really need a runway. You just need a parking lot, which is right where you're at, and you'll be able to travel. So here are the landscapes.
Out in front of as many people as possible because of the content of this document.
So was this document available to everyone, or this was on their actual website and someone found it?
That is correct. It was on the NASA website, and it was a document that actually is a PowerPoint presentation.
Look how beautiful this landscape is where we will be able to travel over mountains.
By Dennis Bushnell, the chief NASA scientist at the Langley Center. And it was presented in 2001, July of 2001, just a few months before 9/11.
We will be able to park our Jetsons nearby and then get out and walk and see sights like this. Go to the creeks and the rivers and just walk around in your own nature garden area, the area that you've never been in, but because we don't have our Jetsons.
And what brought my attention to it and immediately rang some uncomfortable realizations was when we first came across it. It says on the website, future strategic issues, future warfare circa 2025. And as I decided to just flip through it quickly to see what it was about, I was a little stunned.
Look at
on
the
page
beautiful
4.
landscape. We'll be able
It
to
said,
fly over
"The
mountains to
presentation
mountains.
is based in all cases upon existing data, trends, analysis, technologies, no pixie
Look at that.
dust." And the entire premise of the document, or the PowerPoint, is about robots, cyborgs, and humans. So I immediately saw a conflict between future and now. And I thought, are they covering up? Because that was a definite cover up. And then I started to continue looking through the document with shock. And that's why we're talking right now. Because I think most people would be shocked to find on.
Okay, now, also, when, now, of course, our Jetsons, it's going to be really, really beautiful. And no, I don't own the copyrights to this video or anything like that, and I just want you to make sure to pay attention to, the messages that's being presented. And so, because what's happening is that we're going to have to go to the promised land, within 4 years, as what she's trying to explain to you. It's on an emergency basis, because I remember Yeshua Pandera was telling me about, shout out to Yeshua Pandera and everyone who donated. Thank you, thank you. But Yeshua Pandera was telling me about how his neighborhood is being bombarded with these radio waves. This is why we need to have 13 different, or 7 to 13 different promised land areas for us to travel. And we'll be traveling from these mountain areas because we don't have beta waves going into our minds and making us crazy. This is why it's bad for you to live in one house, because these parasite people is against us, and they're the ones that's telling us that you're a felon. You're gonna go to jail. Even when you drive your car to the store, you can get pulled over and then end up going to jail just because you went to the store or whatever. It happened a lot of times that I've seen people go to jail, and my car was impounded because I'm driving my car. I'm like, damn, just because I don't have a driver's, I don't have what you want me to have, like your documents, so you got to impound my car? And you're not even from this land. See, these parasites can get at you like that. But if you have different areas that you can go to, how can they get you? How can they even see you? If you have different